Question 1. Fill in the blank so that the calculation on the left is equal to the calculation on the right. Well, on the left, we've got 6 times 8. This gives us a product of 48. So on the right, we also need a product of 48. Well, 48 divided by 4 is 12. So 4 times 12 will give us the same answer as 6 times 8. 1b. 12 times 75 equals 10 times something. So we can do 75 times 12. 5 times 2 is 10, so 0 extra 1. 7 times 2 is 14, add that 1 is 15. 0 here. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 7 is 7. Then adding these up, 0 add 0 is 0. 5 add 5 is 10, so 0 extra 1. 7 add 1 is 8, add that 1 is 9. Another way that we could have done this in our head is that 75 times 2 is 150. Times that by 2 again is 300. We can just multiply that by 3 because we're timesing by 2, then timesing by 2, then timesing by 3, which is the same as timesing by 12. So now that we know that 10 times something is 900, it has to be 90. Question 2. What number is 40% of 75? Well, 40% is 40 out of 100, or in other words, this is the same as 2/5, because we can divide the top and the bottom by 20. So 40 divided by 20 is 2, and then 100 divided by 20 is 5. So 2/5 is equivalent to 40%. We are finding 2/5 of 75. In other words, 2/5 multiplied by 75. So we can cancel the top and bottom by 5, leaving us with 1 on the bottom here and 15 on the top here. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 75 divided by 5 is 15, and then 2 times 15 is 30. When we're finding 2/5 of a number, all we've done here is we found 1/5 and then multiplied that 1/5 by 2 to get 2/5. So alternatively, we could have done what is 75 divided by 5 in our head and then multiplied by 2 to get 30. The reason I'm showing all this working out is because we get marks for working out. In case we get the final answer wrong, then these are very useful for getting us marks. 3. Calculate 2.3 plus 3.7, which is all in brackets, divided by 9. Now, with this type of question, we need to use a rule known as BIDMAS, which tells us what order to do our operations in. Anything in brackets we do first, i.e. this we do first. The only other operation we've got here is division, which is all the way here under the D. So we do the brackets first and then we do the division, even though there's addition within the brackets, which comes later. So first of all, we're doing 2.3, add 3.7. 3 add 7 is 10, so 0 extra 1. 2 add 3 is 5, add 1 is 6. In other words, we're doing 6 divided by 9, which we can write as a fraction, but it asks for a simplified fraction. So 6 over 9 is a fraction not in its simplest form. We can divide the top and bottom by 3. So 6 divided by 3 gives us 2. 9 divided by 3 gives us 3. So this is therefore 2/3. 4. Write down the following in order of size, smallest first. Well, they've all got a unit of 4, and by the unit I mean the digit that's just before the decimal point. We've got 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So then next we look at the tenths column, which is the first digit that you see after the decimal point. Here it's 3, 3, 1, 3, 1. So one of these two must be the smallest. Then let's look at the second digit after the decimal point to compare which out of the two that I've underlined is smaller. You will see that the one on the right has 2 hundredths, whereas this one has 3 hundredths. So the one on the right is therefore the smallest, 4.123. Then, of course, this one, which was its competitor, 4.132. Now, the rest of them all have 4.3 as a starting point, but this one doesn't have anything after it. So it's got 0 hundredths, 0 thousandths. That means it's definitely smaller than the ones on the left. So this one is next, 4.3. Now, if we compare 4.321 and 4.32, it's a similar case to before. They both have 4.32, but this has 0 thousandths, whereas this has 1 thousandth. It's 1 thousandth bigger, not much, but it does still count. And so this, being 4.320, is actually smaller than 4.321. So we're not going to write 4.320, we'll write it as it originally was, which is 4.32, although they mean the same thing. And then 4.321 can be the largest. To check this, what you could do is you could read this in reverse order and see if they're descending. So 4.321, 4.32 is smaller than that, 4.3 is smaller than that, 4.132 is smaller than that, and 4.123 is the smallest. Always good to check your answers if you can. 5. Find the missing numerator and denominator of the equivalent fractions below. Equivalent means they have the same value. So if the top increases, then the bottom also has to increase in order to keep the proportions the same. So let's use 12/18 as our starting point. Well, if we look at 18 as this denominator, but 12 is the denominator for this fraction, this denominator is smaller, so the numerator also has to be smaller to stay in proportion. So if we examine the original fraction, which is 12 out of 18, we can simplify that to say 2 out of 3 by dividing top and bottom by 6. So these two fractions on either side need to equal 2/3. So what do we need to do to 2/3 to make it equal to something over 12? Well, we multiply by 4 on the bottom. So we're also going to multiply by 4 on the top. This will therefore become 8/12. And in the same way, again, we're going to see how do we make 2/3 equal to 18 over something? Well, what do we multiply 2 by to get to 18? That's 9. So 3 multiplied by 9 gives you 27. And this is again in the same proportion. Because let's say if we started with a fraction like 18 over 27, you can divide top and bottom by 9. 18 divided by 9 is 2, 27 divided by 9 is 3. Again, it's the same proportion. 6, calculate 391 divided by 17. So we've got 391 divided by 17. So 17 doesn't go into 3, 17 twos are 34 because we can just double it. And then we've got remainder 5. Now 17 went twice into 34, remember, because we just double it to get 34. If we add another 17 to 34, we get 51. So 17 times 3 is 51, and therefore the answer is 23. 7. Write one number which fits all of these three statements. It is a multiple of 3, it is a multiple of 7, it ends in a 2. Well, let's focus on the first two first. If it is a multiple of 3 and 7, which are both prime numbers, it has to be a multiple of 3 times 7, which is 21. So it has to be a multiple of 21. Now we can say that 21 is a multiple of 21, but 21 does not end in 2. So let's go up to the next multiple of 21, which is just another 21 added on top. So 21 times 2 is 42, and that fits everything because 42 you can divide by 3, 42 you can divide by 7, and 42 ends in a 2. So we are done. 42. 8. I think of a number n. 5n is more than 60, but n plus 5 is less than 20. What are the possible values of n? If 5n is more than 60, we can divide the left side and the right side by 5 and say n is more than 12. But at the same time, we're saying n plus 5 is less than 20. If n plus 5 is less than 20, then n must be less than 20 take away 5. N must be less than 15. So here we're saying that n is bigger than 12, and here we're saying that n is smaller than 15. So it can't be 12 because it's not equal to, it's not like greater than or equal to, and this can't be 15 either. So they're numbers between 12 and 15, but not 12 itself and not 15 itself. In other words, we're just looking at 13 and 14. Number 9, Sarah won a large jar of sweets in a Christmas raffle. If there are 486 sweets in the jar and she shares them equally with her 17 classmates, how many do they each get? We did a similar question not long ago, which was a kind of double-digit division situation. This is division because you've got a total here, which needs to be shared, i.e. divided equally between these 17 classmates. So let's go. 486 divided by 17. It's actually the same number that we're dividing by. So 17 2s are 34, as we previously saw. 17 3s are 51, which is too big for this. So let's say 17 2s are 34. How much do we have left over? Now let's do a bit of estimation. 10 times 17 equals 270, because we can just add 0 on the end. So 9 times 17 must be 17 less than that. So must be 153. But 153 is still too big for 146. Just a little bit too big. So therefore we know that this will fit 8 times. Therefore they each get 28, and the units here are sweets. To check, what we can do is we can multiply 17 by 8 and see, is that really the biggest that would go in here? So 7 times 8 is 56, 6 extra 5, 1 times 8 is 8, add that 5 is 13, and 136 to 146 is a gap of 10. You cannot fit any more 17s in that 10. We will resume with the second part of this paper in the next video. So till then, I hope you stay safe and stay well. If there are any papers that you'd like me to cover, please do let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you soon.